The year is 1911. The town is small, the kind where everyone knows everyone and nothing stays quiet for long. Except this. Beneath the old parish house, past the pews, past the vestry, past a door most parishioners never noticed, there was a room. The caretaker knew about it. He had a key. He used that key almost every day for 19 years. And when people asked him what was down there, he gave the same answer every time. Storage, nothing more. But storage rooms don't usually need a lock with 3 separate bolts. Storage rooms don't usually have a door reinforced with iron bands, the kind you'd expect on a vault, not a broom closet. And storage rooms don't usually make a grown man's hands shake every single time he turned that key. The caretaker died in 1930. He never wrote down what was in that room. He never told his own family. And when the parish finally cleared out his old cottage decades later, they found something strange hanging on a nail by the back door. His key, the same one, still on its original ring, still worn smooth from thousands of turns. Nobody could explain why he kept it after he stopped working there. Nobody could explain why the room itself, when it was finally reopened years later, didn't match a single description in any parish record. This is the story of what was actually down there, and why the official story never once matched what the walls themselves seemed to remember.
To understand the room, you have to understand the man who guarded it. His name was Thomas Whitlock, and by every account he was not a dramatic man. Neighbors described him as quiet, reliable, the sort of person who showed up early and left late. He'd taken the caretaker position in 1911, right after the parish finished an unusual renovation. Church ledgers from that year mention structural repairs to the foundation and sealing of the lower passage. Nothing more specific than that. No architect named, no invoice for materials. Just a single vague line item buried in a column of much more detailed expenses for candles, hymnals, and roof tiles. That's the first thing that doesn't sit right. A parish that tracked the cost of every candle didn't think to record what a full foundation renovation actually involved. Thomas took the job 3 weeks after that ledger entry, and almost immediately his habits changed. Neighbors who'd known him for years said he stopped taking evening walks. He stopped attending the social gatherings he used to enjoy. He started arriving at the parish house before dawn, and more than once he was seen locking that lower door behind him, checking it twice, sometimes 3 times, before he'd walk away. One woman, a former parish secretary named Edith Marsh, gave an account late in her life that still circulates in local archives. She said that in the winter of 1919, she'd forgotten something in the vestry and returned after hours. She heard Thomas below, in that room, not moving furniture, not sweeping, talking, low, steady, like he was speaking to someone. When she asked him about it the next day, he told her the pipes made strange noises sometimes. She said the pipes had been replaced 2 years earlier. She never asked him again, but she never forgot it either.
If Thomas Whitlock was hiding something, he wasn't the only one. Parish inspection records from 1923 mention a visiting diocesan official who requested access to the lower storage area during a routine property assessment. The request is documented, the visit is documented, but the findings section of that report is missing 3 full pages. Not damaged, not faded, cut. A clean, deliberate removal that the archivist who found it in the 1980s described as surgical. Whatever that official saw, someone didn't want it read. And Thomas wasn't working alone either. A younger assistant, hired briefly in 1925, lasted only 4 months before quitting without notice. His resignation letter survives, and it says almost nothing, except for one line that historians keep coming back to. "I will not go down there again, and I would ask that no one make me explain why." He left town within the year, no forwarding address, no further parish employment on record anywhere in the region. Then there's the matter of the workmen. In 1928, the parish commissioned minor repairs to the building's exterior stonework. The crew's foreman kept a personal notebook, later donated to a regional historical society. In it, he recorded daily tasks, weather, and expenses, the ordinary stuff of a working man's ledger. But one entry, dated October the 14th, breaks that pattern completely. It reads, "Told not to dig near the east wall below grade, told twice, asked why, told it wasn't my business, left the tools there overnight rather than argue." The east wall below grade. That's the same wall the sealed lower room sits behind.
By now, a pattern starts to form, and it's not a comfortable one. A vague renovation with no architect on record, a caretaker who guarded a locked room for 19 years and never described it, even to family, a diocesan report with its findings surgically removed, an assistant who fled town rather than explain what he'd seen, a foreman ordered to stop digging near the exact wall the room sits behind. This isn't a single strange incident. This is layered concealment, built over more than a decade by more than one person, all pointing at the same 12 feet of foundation. And it wasn't just this parish. Researchers cataloging similar rural churches from the same construction era have found an unsettling number of comparable footnotes. Sealed lower chambers, vague renovation entries, caretakers who kept unusual, almost ritualistic control over a single door. In at least 4 other documented cases across 2 counties, the pattern repeats almost exactly: a locked room, a long-serving keeper, and records that go quiet at precisely the moment someone official tries to look closer. Historians who've studied institutional record-keeping from this era point out that the diocese during this period was quietly managing a wave of unexplained discoveries tied to older, pre-existing structures beneath newer buildings. Older foundations, older stonework, sometimes older than the official founding date of the town itself. The instruction, according to internal correspondence that has survived in fragments, was consistent: contain, secure, do not publicize. Which raises the obvious question: what exactly did they find beneath the old parish house that needed 19 years of silence, a personal keeper, and a door built like a vault? When the room was finally reopened, decades after Thomas Whitlock's death, the reality didn't match the paperwork at all. The 1911 ledger described a lower passage undergoing structural repairs. What investigators actually found was not a passage, it was a chamber, far older in construction than the parish house built above it, with stonework techniques that predate the church's own founding by some estimates well over a century. The walls didn't match the foundation style of the buildings sitting on top of them. They matched something else, something that was already there when the parish house was built directly over top of it. That single detail rewrites everything. The parish house wasn't built on empty ground in the town's founding era, the way local history has always claimed. It was built on top of something that already existed, something the founders either didn't fully understand or understood exactly and chose to bury under a new building rather than explain. And Thomas Whitlock wasn't hired to maintain a storage closet. He was hired to guard the seam between what the town claimed to be and what the ground beneath it actually was. That reframes every strange detail: the missing report pages, the assistant who fled, the foreman ordered away from the east wall. None of them stumbled onto a secret by accident. They brushed up against a chamber that predates the official story of the town, in a structure that someone spent real effort making sure the public would never connect to it. The uncomfortable question isn't just what was down there,
It's how many other towns are standing on the same kind of silence, with their own version of a locked door and their own version of a man who never explained what he was guarding.
Thomas Whitlock kept that key for the rest of his life, even after he had no reason to, even after he'd left the job, even after the door was presumably someone else's responsibility. That's not the behavior of a man who guarded a storage closet. That's the behavior of a man who couldn't let go of what he knew. The chamber is still there. The stonework, older than the church, still sits beneath a building most locals walk past without a second thought. The diocesan report is still missing its 3 pages, and nobody, to this day, has offered a full account of what those pages said, or why an assistant would rather vanish from his own hometown than describe 4 months of work. Somewhere in an archived drawer, that key still hangs, waiting for a story most people will never bother to ask about. If you're the kind of person who notices when a room is described a little too carefully, when a record goes quiet at exactly the wrong moment, when a key outlives its own lock, then you already understand why this story matters more than it first appears. You don't scroll past these cases, you collect them. Subscribe if you're one of the ones who keeps looking, even after the door is supposed to stay shut.